Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of Q&A, the show where I take your questions from YouTube and Twitter and answer them here in video format. As always, a ton of questions to get into, so let's just jump right into it today. And we're going to start with a question from Chase, who says, how do you think the Browns' frontline defense will be week 1 versus the Chiefs? Do you think Garrett and Clowney and McKinley will be good together? Yeah, I do. And for a lot of reasons that I kind of outlined in one of the videos I posted when they signed all two of these guys, both Clowney and Takk McKinley. And part of that is because of the versatility, right? When you look at the film and you look at what Takk McKinley does really well, he can bull rush the outside shoulder really well. When you look at what Jadeveon Clowney does really well, he can attack the inside shoulder really well. And then we all know Myles Garrett can pretty much do anything he wants well. So what does that mean when it comes to alignment? It means that you have a pair of opposite defensive ends that match up quite well, right? That match up well with each other as well, that can be on the field and be beneficial towards each other, that can keep offensive tackles on their feet and keep guards guessing. So I do think theoretically, when you look at the strengths of each player on that defensive line, that it can work out and that it makes sense that it will work out. But, you know, it's football. There's more than a theory. You kind of have to see it play out. The next question comes from Husky, who says, hey, Q, do you think after the injury with Greedy, Greg Newsome has a higher chance of winning the position battle? It wasn't really an injury with Greedy. He just left practice with 10 minutes remaining. So I wouldn't go as far as saying that. What I will say is that I know Greedy's starting right now, but let's be honest. It's the NFL. We know how the NFL works. They drafted Greg Newsome in the first round. This is an uphill battle for Greedy Williams to keep that job. And I don't think it's likely that he does, just based off of even if he does stay healthy. Is Greedy Williams better than Greg Newsome? I don't know. The Greedy Williams that we saw even when he was healthy wasn't really that great in 2018. You know, he had a lot of room to grow. Not saying he was awful, but also he wasn't like a stud out the box like Denzel Ward was. So it's not a given that he starts. And right now he has the upper hand because he's a veteran and he's going to get the start over Greg Newsome theoretically. But we know how the NFL works. This regime drafted Greg Newsome in the first round. They did not draft Greedy Williams, so there's more incentive for them financially. There's more incentive when it comes to how they're building and structuring this team that Greg Newsome wins that spot over Greedy Williams. And if Greg even can tie it up with him, he's going to win that spot. So that's really an uphill battle for Greedy Williams, so we'll see what happens as camp goes on. The next question comes from Orca Batista, who says, when do you think Baker will get re-signed, and do you expect his contract to look, well, how do I expect his contract to look compared to Lamar or Dax? It'll probably be a similar contract, especially if he has a year we want him to have this year. He will probably have a similar contract. And, you know, I don't know how you compare it to Lamar's contract because Lamar hasn't signed a contract either, and it looks like he'll sign next offseason. And Dak's contract situation is a different beast than what anybody else's situation is going to be. One, Dak was like a 4th-round pick, so he came up early. 2, Dak was able to benefit from the Cowboys kind of negotiating against themselves because they franchise tagged him. And I hear a lot of people throw this around. Oh, just franchise tag the quarterback. Just franchise tag him. Here is the issue with franchise tagging your quarterback. If you want to keep him, that's the biggest thing. If you want to keep your quarterback, franchise tagging him kind of creates leverage against yourself when it comes to signing that quarterback to a long-term deal. Because you can franchise tag that quarterback once, it'll be the average of the top 5. It's going to be expensive, but it's only 1 year. So that's not a big deal, right? The big deal is the year after. When you franchise tag it, it's a percentage over the top 5, which is then record money for 1 year, which is going to be now about like $48 to $50 million for that 1 year. And nobody is going to pay that price for 1 year just to franchise tag somebody. So you end up in a situation like the Dallas Cowboys where you're negotiating against that $50 million number because you want to keep your quarterback, but you used all your franchise tags, but you put yourself in that corner. That is the problem when it comes to excessively franchise tagging guys. That's what happened with Dak Prescott's contract, and that's why his situation is a little bit different than Lamar or Baker's. So it's probably going to be $35 to $40 million a year. And again, I really don't see the value in worrying about what that yearly number is going to be, because if you think Baker is worth re-signing, if you think he's a top 10 quarterback, then it really doesn't matter how much money he's making. Look at every team that has a chance to win a Super Bowl every year. Most of the time, their quarterback's making, more than $35 million a year if they're not in their rookie deal. The perennial winners that stick around, that have a lot of wins over the last few years, they're the teams that pay their quarterback. And I know everybody likes to play this fun game, right, when it comes to salary cap and act like, if you can just save $10 million or $20 million, you're going to make this team so much better. You're going to be able to re-sign these guys. But it never honestly works out like that ever in NFL history, where a team will save that money and actually spend it anywhere that's going to be as useful as just locking up your quarterback. I get why people are kind of obsessing over the number when it comes to Baker Mayfield, but whatever the number is, if you think he's a top 10 quarterback, honestly, it's got to be worth it. The next question comes from Christmas in July, who says, do you think the Browns will have similar success improving their secondary like they did with their offensive line last year? This would be a great tip or a great credit to Andrew Berry if he could do the same thing 2 years in a row when it comes to greatly improving a position group of dire straits, right? I think the year before Andrew Berry got here, the Browns' offensive line, you could be argued, was one of the worst in the NFL, both run and pass blocking. Andrew Berry comes in one offseason, changes that, and then they have the best offensive line. If he could do something similar with the secondary, one, this team's going to be really, really good. Two, that's going to be a great credit to Andrew Berry. Now, can he do that? I think he made the right moves. John Johnson was the right move. I think Troy Hill was the right move. I think Greg Newsome was the right move. You can see what you can get out of Greedy. You know what you're going to get out of Denzel Ward, and just having more depth, more versatility. Grant Delpit back, see what JOK can do once he gets back. You have a lot of options back there when it comes to the secondary to make it a lot better than it was last year. So I don't mind thinking that it will be better because, again, this is a completely different secondary. Next question comes from Judah Cash, who says, what I would like to ask is, do you think Donovan Peoples-Jones will perform at an elite level? If yes, how soon? If not, why? I mean, elite level is a bit much, right? He might be a Stephon Diggs, a late-round pick that turns out to be a gem. I think it's a lot more likely than it is for most other six-round picks that that's going to happen with Donovan Peoples-Jones, but that's not a guarantee, or that's not even me saying that it's overall, just based off of everything, likely. I do think that he's going to make improvements, and I do think his big year is probably going to be year 3, because that's when things are going to open up for him. And I think that's when some space is going to open up. I don't know if Jarvis and Odell are going to be retained after this season, but I know Donovan Peoples-Jones will be. And the way he is progressing, it seems like after this year, he's really going to be ready for a bigger role. Now, if that's going to be number 1 wide receiver or if that's just going to be a Z wide receiver, we'll see what that role ultimately manifests itself into. But as of right now, I do think he has a bright future and a sharp trajectory. The next question comes from Marcos, who says, with the Rams losing Cam Akers to an Achilles injury, do you think we should trade Kareem Hunt for good draft picks since the Rams need a good running back for their Super Bowl run next season? No. Why would the Browns want to help anybody other than themselves with their Super Bowl run? That is the biggest thing, right? The Browns don't need draft picks. Honestly, do the Rams even have draft picks is the real question, because they haven't had draft picks in years. So what draft pick are you going to accumulate that makes any sense? And again, the premise of the question, the Browns need to help the Rams get to the Super Bowl. The Browns need to help themselves get to the Super Bowl. And there's nobody you're going to trade for Kareem Hunt that's going to help you win a Super Bowl more than having Kareem Hunt on your roster, to be honest with you. And what kind of value do you guys think you're going to get from Kareem Hunt? I don't think the value is as high as people think it is. I think you might get a 4th, you might get a 5th, because teams just don't value running back. So overall, no. Absolutely not. The Browns should not trade Kareem Hunt to help the LA Rams. They should not trade Kareem Hunt to help them get extra picks. This is not where this team is at anymore. The days of trading useful young players in their prime for draft picks because they might not fit your window, anymore. That's over. Every player on this team fits the window because this is the window. So this is not the time to get cute and try to get a couple extra draft picks. It just isn't. That would be the wrong move. The next question comes from Austin Z, who says, any chance the Browns try to trade for Xavier Howard? I don't know where this came from. I tried to track down where the source of this rumor, and it just didn't seem credible at first. I don't know if anybody more substantial has co-signed it or confirmed it or even led any credibility to the trade rumor. I don't think this is happening. I don't think it's a possibility, and I don't see why it would. I get Xavier Howard's a really good player, but the Browns really invested a lot already in their solution to that other cornerback position, right? They have invested a lot in Greg Newsome. Greedy Williams is still out there. Troy Hill was signed in the offseason. They have invested enough on that corner side that I don't think they need to bring somebody else in. And if you would bring Xavier Howard in, it wouldn't be to replace that corner. It would probably be a long-term replacement for Denzel Ward, which doesn't make much sense to me. So, no, I don't think this is a real thing, and I don't think that Xavier Howard's coming to the Browns. The next question and the last question comes from Bruno, who says, would you be satisfied if Baker had a Eli Manning-type career for the Browns? Now, obvious answer would be that would mean 2 Super Bowl rings, right? And I think a lot of people will initially say, hey, yeah, 2 Super Bowl rings, sign me up for that. That'd be great. And that obviously would be great, honestly. Like, wouldn't care that much. But also, if he did have that career, it's going to set Browns fans up for a lifetime of having to defend their quarterback, much like how New York Giants fans, have to defend their quarterback relentlessly. And no, I don't think Eli Manning type career would be satisfactory for Baker Mayfield because I do think he's a better player than Eli Manning was. A lot of Eli's highlights, let's be honest, aren't really highlights from Eli Manning. They're just Eli kind of benefiting from some luck. But nonetheless, if Baker won 2 Super Bowl rings, I think everybody would be happy in the city of Cleveland. But it's kind of one of those interesting things to look at because it would set Browns fans to do a lot of what they kind of don't like doing now, which is having to get angry at people saying things that they don't like about the quarterback. So that would be interesting, definitely. But that's it for this week's questions. Again, guys, thank you for watching. Have a great day and have a good night.